You can be really healthy without hacks, without all the drugs and all the jargon that's out there. Break health down into three simple things. Oh my God, if you do it, it changes everything. You have to work out for 20 minutes a day, every muscle and every joint.
There's probably 10 things all the mechanics of it, and it cut it down to just one. And I was early to the balls, and I was in better position, and all things happened because I focused on this one thing rather than 10. Welcome to Outsource to Profits. I have a fantastic guest and a former SEAL. Thom, please tell the audience about yourself, what you do, and how you serve the world.
Thank you for inviting me, for sure. I was in the SEAL teams for 23 years, and I retired as a senior chief. I guess what that means is we are the ones that were responsible for everything that happens in training and in combat at the ground level. What I have done, I retired 10 years ago, and I have found an interesting niche, if you will, in taking what I've learned from the SEAL teams into corporate space. And like we were talking offline, everything seems complex. Imagine if you were going into combat yourself, not that everybody should or would. It's a very complex environment, and we learned long ago to break everything complex down into what we call three simple things. Like if you can't do these things, you'll never be able to tackle very difficult, ominous projects, whether it's in business or even in life. So the ability to execute on three things will derive outcomes that you have never seen before.
This is fantastic. And I want to obviously double and triple click into the three things, how you choose the three things. I'll tell you a story from last night. Usually I tell a business story, but I'm a competitive water skier and I kind of follow it along because my son is a nationally ranked competitive water skier. The thing about that sport is from the moment you get up out of the water, when you hit the first gates where you pull out and you start going through the course, it is 16.5 seconds is the entire course because you're doing 34 miles an hour. 34 miles an hour is how fast the boat's going in a straight line. And then as you're coming across the wake, you usually reach around 50 or 60 miles an hour. You have no time to actually think. It really does have to become muscle memory. And last night, the coach I was working with had me working on vision, where I was looking. And I won't bore the audience with the details, but we just worked on an exercise where I had to kind of stare at the back of the head of the boat driver as I'm going through. And it made a remarkable difference because it actually, the exercise was not just about, you ski where you look, but it cut out all the superfluous things I'd been thinking about. There's probably 10 things all the mechanics of it, and it cut it down to just one. And I was early to the balls, and I was in better position, and all things happened because I focused on this one thing rather than 10.
Mm-hmm.
So
rather than infinite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So do you mind explaining how you came to this epiphany? Was it taught to you through the SEAL team and this power of the three things? Because if you can't do three, you can't do 10. Where did this come from as kind of like a root cause analysis?
I would probably not do justice to define the origin of life is what you're asking. From a guy named Draper Kaufman, who created the SEAL teams in the 1940s or late 30s. He was given and this story may be relevant. Imagine if the president of the United States said, "Hey, Draper and a guy named Phil, we need to send guys into Iwo Jima and the landings in Europe to blow up all the obstacles in the water, and we think you're all going to die, but it still needs to happen. Can you do a training that will produce this outcome?" And if you're a business owner, that's the life that your brain thinks of. How do I
Yeah.
make $20 million? And
Yes.
I know I'm going to lose half the people I hire. They're going to cheat me, all the bad things that your brain
Yeah.
thinks of.
I'm going to churn hundreds of customers on the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it may not work. I may die. So Draper, brilliant man, didn't meet him. He was dead before I was alive. But I got to meet him through what he passed down to us. He knew that there's a million things to do, from planting the obstacle to swimming in. You got to be able to swim 7 miles. All that's superfluous, is what you said. What do I need these guys to do? I need them to do something offensive or forward thinking. So the three things, if you want to break them down, are offense, defense, and strategy, or right now, learn from what I've done and predict what's going to happen next. And as you begin to define it, it becomes more complicated. So in this moment, I got to be able to do this moment really well. And what you're saying is I got to look at one thing. So what are the moments that led into that we would call that defense? What are all the things that I've learned? So if you hadn't learned how to edge those skis, if you hadn't learned tension in the rope, it doesn't matter where you put your eyeballs. Like all the skill sets that you've acquired, how do you impart those into 15 seconds or 16 seconds, you said? You have to train all the time. So that's defense. You have all these businesses that you've brought into your business. You have to touch them simply all the time. You can't go a day without talking to a client that you have. If you are a product developer, all the 100 products that you've developed, you can't say, well, it's good and it's going to leave it on the shelf and not deal with it, even though that may not be a relative or relevant conversation. So all the skills development is something important, simple, and necessary every day at a very elementary level. So I have to, my goal is to do 1,000 push-ups every day. I don't have to do 1,000, but I have to do push-ups. You know what I mean? So that's the defense side. The offense, the first of the three simple things, whether it's in business or combat, I have to say, what am I projecting? What's my offensive nature other than I can defend myself? How am I taking steps? In business, how do I get in front of new people, new opportunities? And you could write 1,000 books on sales, but every day you got to find an opportunity. You have, how you were looking at it is your offense is, I got to keep my head on one position. And because that's how opportunities, I got to be looking at one thing all the time, especially in skiing. Downhill skiing is the same way.
Yeah.
Got to look downhill. If you look at the tree line, by God, you'll go right to the tree line. If you look at an obstacle, you're going right into it. So in business sales, you got to get in front of opportunities. So every day I have to get in front of an opportunity. Every day I have to deal with a project that I'm currently on, but not at the 8-hour interval. I have to look at it myself. And then what we call strategy. In the SEAL teams, this is the weakest muscle, strategy. And by God, strategy and tactics are they're not the same. So you have to know as a leader how this all is going to end up. What's the future like? What's this target going to look like at the end of it? Like if everything works out, what will be my experience of that moment, it all having worked out? And you practice that all the time. And it's weak. I don't want to deal with what it's going to look like. Can we just take the first steps? In business, very few businesses I've worked with, over 500 now, do they have a clear strategy that everybody can articulate that is successful? Like your strategy would be in, water skiing, a time, having I think there's 8 on or 6 on each side. I can't remember how many.
There's 6 total balls, 3 on each side.
6. So
Yeah.
having completely turned on 6 and not wiped out and got a certain, time at the end of it, whatever that is. And what would be your experience of having done that? Like, you got to experience that moment having done it, as opposed to looking at the board going, okay, 16 seconds or 30
And
or whatever.
Do you visualize, like you document it almost like a visual experience of what it would look like at completion? Is that what you're saying?
A visceral one, like the Elon Musk living on Mars in 2050.
Yeah.
If you've ever listened to him, he's probably the greatest visionary of our time, because he's living on Mars going, okay, over here, my wife and kids will be playing in the stream, or I'm there talking about it.
Yeah.
And if businesses don't have it, they lose 30% of their capacity. And here's how you know a business has it. The secretary can talk about it. It's not the top people that matter. It's everybody else. So in the SEAL teams, everybody else has to see the vision. How's this going to turn out? And then everybody has to see what I'm responsible for. So if you're the driver of the boat, or if you're the sniper or whatever, what's your sole job here? Like your primary job. And if I do it well, then, we all get to drink a beer on the boat in 5 hours, whatever.
And that primary job is, if we break down defense, offense, strategy, the primary job is, if you were the sniper, the skier, the primary job that's the offense description. Like if you were to break down all the things you're supposed to do, if you do this one thing right, you've conquered the offense. The defense is the practice side.
To get there.
I learned by teaching back, and then okay.
Yep.
Got it. I like this.
And in a training mode, I'll make it so that everybody hears this. You can be really healthy without hacks, without all the drugs and all the jargon that's out there. Break health down into 3 simple things. Oh my God, if you do it, it changes everything. You have to work out for 20 minutes a day, every muscle and every joint. 20 minutes. That's all you need. By the way, maybe 4% of the population does that. I'm responsible. I have to work my muscles and joints for 20 minutes a day. That's all I have to do. That's the offense. The defense is what what stretches are necessary. And there's only 3. You have to stretch your hamstrings for at least 40 seconds. You have to do a full squat for 40 seconds, and you have to hang from a bar for 40 seconds. It's not a time sucker. And if you do the math, so 20 minutes plus several series of 20 or 40-second intervals, and then 4 glasses of water and no sugar. That's simple. Everybody can articulate it, but few people do it. It doesn't take much more than that to be extremely healthy. It's so simple that nobody does it. So like when I put people through my training, that's what you have to do. And everybody fails for months. I'm like, I can't teach you the second level until you do the first level.
You can do the first principles or the basics. Let's pretend with a few minutes remaining, you walk into a small to medium business, $5-10 million in revenue. They feel stuck. Can you role play as an example? I love that. Do a defense here, break down a couple things they need to do in defense. Like just pick what does an average customer of yours look like? Here are the 3 fundamentals of defense. Here's your one offense. If you just do this, and sales is almost always probably going to be that thing. And then give me your vivid vision, your strategy. Like, what does this thing look like in 2030? Do you mind just doing that quick exercise? Because this is great.
It's a random way to start. So without being in front of me, the first thing is 7 words or less. What does success look like at the end of 2025? If you had a board of 5, you would have it would take about an hour and a half to get to 7 words or less. Even at Fortune 500. They cannot all articulate the same vision.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And it's
not
not just
because
a
they're not
money
clear.
thing
Like the
or a
boss
number.
is clear, but he's written 17 paragraphs, 7 words or less. What does success look like at the end of the year?
Okay.
And can I get it? And then can I walk out to the secretary and ask her? Not that she's less, but the greeter, the first person you see in a business, when they have 7 words or less, the productivity of the whole company goes up by 30%, and nobody accounts for it. Then how many projects are you currently? So it's a level of responsibility. If you want to, those 3 things are everybody in the business's responsibility, every single person. How many projects are you on? What can you do today at the, say, 5 people are on the board? What are you doing today on one of those projects? That's your responsibility to do, and you can only do it for 20 minutes. But you have to touch at least one current existing project that the whole business is on, whether it could be hiring people, could be anything. And what's the second person do? Your responsibility, 20 minutes. And then what opportunities are you responsible to getting in front of today? And at the executive level, they've already parsed that off to everybody else. So they don't have a level of responsibility to those 3 things on a daily basis. But when the top people get in front of an opportunity, everybody below them has scale. And you can't pass off 60 minutes of your day on somebody else. 60 minutes it takes to be on point as an executive committee or as a whole business, that everybody takes 60 minutes out of the day to do 3 simple things in business: to find an opportunity, deal with something I currently have in my hamper, and then try to articulate in 7 words or less what success feels like at the end of the year.
This is fantastic. How do people get a hold of you if they want to know more, procure you for coaching? This is great.
I think I'm all over the internet. I had written a book to my family in combat, and somehow it did well. So I ended up in the public spotlight. So thomshea.com is the easiest way. And
What's the name of the book? Because is it on Audibles?
Oh, yeah. So Unbreakable Navy SEAL's Way of Life was the first book. And the second book was 3 Simple Things Leading During Chaos.
I'm getting the 3 simple things. I got to get this.
Yeah.
This is, yeah.
The second one is a whole didactic book. The first one is a visceral combat experience of how a dad and a husband and a leader doesn't die in combat. For some reason, people like the first one.
I maybe should I read them in order of operations or?
The first one you won't put down. The second one is training. Like man, I don't get that. You have to read it a couple times.
Okay, that sounds good. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being on Outsource to Profits.
I appreciate you. Thank you all.